Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Got a student who is a chemistry major, and he and I were just talking about some of the most dangerous chemistry experiments we've ever done. So I thought I would make a video talking about that. When I first learned chemistry, I was fascinated with the concept of electrolysis, and especially how it could be used to make chlorine bleach and also a high power explosive called sodium chlorate, electrolysis of salt water. I had made a small amount of sodium chlorate powder and I placed it inside a phone book. This was back in the days when you would look up somebody's phone number in a book about that thick. There were white pages, yellow pages. You guys are probably too young to remember that. I stuffed the sodium chlorate in the phone book and I placed it in the fireplace and I lit the phone book on fire. Fruff! The entire phone book disintegrated. There was nothing left. And the whole house kind of had a shockwave to it. My mom was so upset at me doing that. I used to burn stuff in the fireplace a lot, and she was very upset every time she had to clean it. I burned all sorts of stuff in there. Um, I I know it's funny how I didn't recognize it at the time, but I now work with melting pennies, casting metals. But I used to throw all kinds of stuff in the fireplace, and I discovered that pennies could melt, but only some of them. Some of them didn't melt. I didn't know why at the time. This was in, I was 12, 13 years old. This would have been the late 90s, early 2000s, before I really started collecting coins. Of course, I now know some pennies were copper, others were zinc, obviously. The zinc ones melted, the copper ones didn't. We would be burning a log in the fireplace, and I would place coins on it for good luck. And the bigger coins, the nickels, dimes, quarters, never melted, right? But the pennies sometimes did. And at the time, it seemed like a fortune tell, right? I'm going to put a penny on there, see if it melts, right? I might ask that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to talk to this girl. Is it going to work out? And I'll put a penny on there to kind of fortune tell, if I remember correctly. I would burn all sorts of stuff in the fireplace. One time, I was going to college part time, and I discovered that this chemistry professor had retired and thrown out a ton of chemistry gear. And I took home a large battery, storage type battery. I think it might have been a lead acid or some other chemistry, but it was big and it had a lot of watts. It had a lot of watts to it, and I was using it for the electrolysis kind of experiments. One day while doing it, I had a wire about that long, and I accidentally short circuited the terminals. And before I knew it, the wire got really hot. I couldn't touch it in order to connect it or disconnect it. And I ran around the house looking for a pair of scissors or something to cut the wire. And I found some scissors, but when I got back, the entire wire had melted anyway. And fortunately, when it melted, it disconnected the wire, and it left a burning smell. I was doing this in my bathroom in the bedroom. My mom was so upset about this. I decided to make some more sodium chlorate, but see, the process is really slow. It took 2 weeks to make that small amount of sodium chlorate, and it was gone in 5 seconds in the fireplace. I wanted a much larger amount of it. I went outside to our front porch. I got a bucket, filled it with salt water, and I put the end of an extension cord in the salt water and I plugged it in. And before I knew it, the entire cord went crazy and it filled the front door area with chlorine gas. And it was so pungent, I couldn't get to the cord to unplug it. And the cord also got very hot as well. So I ran to the basement to turn off the circuit breakers. And by the time I got back to the front door area, everything was charred, and it made so much chlorine that there was a tablecloth on the table near our front door, and it had bleached the entire table. That's how much chlorine gas it had made. And my dad was home that my mom wasn't home that night. My dad was. He ran to see what was going on. Before he could get to it, he starts coughing his guts out from the chlorine gas, and so he was so upset. And so He banned me from uh, going online for some time because that was where I was reading a lot of the material, and he took all of the chemistry books from my bedroom. I collected a ton of chemistry books that I would scavenge from the college campus. I had my dad's old chemistry textbooks as well, and my dad took them all away from me because that's where I was reading all of that stuff. And I had wanted to double major in chemistry, but my dad didn't allow me to do it because I was too careless with what I was doing. Now that I'm all grown up, I decided to extract some polonium 210 out of some dust in our house. I got in a really sensitive Geiger counter, and I was living in a house that had some radon. It was not enough for it to be dangerous. We did a radon test, and it was only like zero point 0.2 picocuries per liter, if that makes any sense to you guys. But I discovered that when we would vacuum the floor, the dust would contain radon decay byproducts. And I discovered I could put the dust in piranha solution to dissolve all the organic materials, and then I could distill off the piranha solution and have a sludge left over, and that sludge was really radioactive. I'm not sure what I put myself in more danger of, the piranha solution or the radioactivity, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.